like one more week of the series that we're in about anger and unoffendable, and then we're going to be rolling right into the Advent season. I mean, there may be a 1 week break where I preach from the lectionary, but I have an Advent series I'm going to do this year. So by now, some of you may be thinking that this whole unoffendable thing sounds pretty good. Not easy, but good. Did any of you do my homework and try and say, like, okay, today I'm going to be unoffendable? Did anybody try it and see that? Because, man, in my experience, I don't last too long until I get on the phone with customer service or something at Medicare, and then I'm mad, right? I'm offended. But it's not easy, but it's a great way to live. You might ask, but what about injustice, though? We can get angry about that, right? Because we're Christians, we're little Christ. Shouldn't we be angered by injustices? No, actually. Let's dispense with one idea right from the get-go today, and it is anger. Anger and action are not synonymous. They're not the same thing. We think that if we're not angry about an injustice or another situation, that we're accepting it. But that's not true. In fact, anger and action are very different, and confusing the two can cause more stress as opposed to less. There was a study at the University of British Columbia, and this study said that if you click like on Facebook for fill in the blank, help the poor children of Rwanda, let's say. You click like on that, showing your, I like this, virtual dislike of poverty, you are actually less likely to do something like maybe donate. So if you click like, you're less likely to actually help that cause. It's a form of what could be called, we've all heard of activism, this could be called slacktivism, right? Inactive is usually a better description. Today's society seems to be in love with taking what I call a virtual stand, right? We're behind our keyboard and we're mad. We take a virtual stand. I'm angry about this, which costs us absolutely nothing, right? In time or money. But we soak up the accolades that come in when we express our distaste for various woes of the world. Obviously, if we say, I'm really mad about the children of Rwanda, the people that agree with us, they're going to say, yeah, me too. Some of the more touchy subjects, you're not always going to get accolades when you stand up for what you believe in. See, when we do this virtual liking, we get to fool ourselves and think that we're involved all of a sudden as we bask in the glow of this righteous anger. What do we learn, though? Righteous anger is actually a myth. Righteous anger actually impedes action because it lets us congratulate ourselves for being involved when we're not. You see that? You see how that is? And it's so true. We see this injustice, we get angry, we click like, and we feel all of a sudden like this endorphin rush, like, hey, now I'm involved in the cause. We pat ourselves on the back for taking a holy and righteous stand. And boy, are we ticked off. But it turns out that often the people who shout the loudest about, and I left it blank, whatever they're shouting about, are the least likely to actually get involved and to be part of the solution. Here's another interesting fact about confusing anger with action. Us, right? Men, carnivores, like, tend to see this type of anger, or really any anger, as masculine. We tend to see anger as masculine. And that's not true. Paul addresses this sort of in 1 Corinthians 13 when he says it's all about love. And you guys have heard it at weddings. It's usually spoken, maybe not the whole thing, but part of it in weddings. This is what Paul says: if I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but I have not love, I'm just like a noisy gong or a cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all the mysteries and have all the knowledge, and if I have faith enough to remove mountains, but I don't have love, I'm nothing. If I give away all I have and I deliver my body to be burned, but I have not love, I gain nothing. So I didn't hear, did you hear in there anywhere about anger, righteous anger, or if I don't have anger about things, right? No, what the world needs is not a group of self-righteous folk patting themselves on the back for being angry. We need more people who act out of love and compassion to set things right. The type of people who actually do something to right wrongs. Another interesting thing about righteous anger, if it's so dang good, if we hold on to it as sort of like our last hope of being able to have any kind of anger, right? Because we all want to be able to get angry. We can say, well, what about righteous anger? If it's so good, why is it not listed among the fruit of the Spirit? Yeah, right, that Paul lists. And we know them, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Anger's not in there. Righteous anger's not in there. Any of you ever heard of Dallas Willard? Famous theologian. Good guy. He says this, stepping out of anger, not into, stepping out of anger means that you are surrendering your will to God. That's a pretty profound statement. Stepping out of anger means you're surrendering your will to God. It means that you have accepted that you do not need to have your way. And we also read Paul's words in Ephesians 4. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger, there's the word, there it is, and clamor, whatever that is, and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. So he's lumping anger in there with a bunch of stuff that nobody's proud of when they're bitter or wrathful or angry or slanderous. I don't read anywhere in there where Paul says that anger is a virtue. There's a book titled Zebras, what a great title. Zebras do not get ulcers. Zebras don't get ulcers. And the author's theory is, it's not a theory, it's true, that zebras and a lot of other animals in the animal kingdom have a very short stress response cycle. Their bodies return to normal mode right after the event. So let's say a zebra sees a lion and it runs, adrenaline and whatever else happens, high alert, DEFCON 1, runs. The lion grabs onto one of his buddies that was slower, right? So, I know. Somebody said, I got to say it now. Somebody said the zombie apocalypse, I don't have to beat everybody, I just have to beat you. But so the zebra, the lion got another zebra. Well, you know what? The zebra doesn't go away and just like, oh, I'm so worried. I almost got eaten by a lion. I can't believe that almost happened. No, when the threat's over, they're back to normal. Maybe not instantaneously, but pretty quickly they're back to normal, right? What do when we have a real threat? We do the same thing, adrenaline and whatever, cortisol, and we fight or flight and we do our thing, and then the threat's gone, and what do we do? What do? I can't speak for you. I think about the whole rest of the day. Man, I was angry. Look how close I came to getting killed, and I wish I would have done that, and this and that. My stress level is almost the same as when the event occurred. And that just is not good, man, if you think about it, because how often do things like that happen? Maybe not traumatic, but bad things happen during the day, and we hold on to them and that stress cycle. Even when we have a real threat, we stay in that frightened response longer than we need to. And we know that stress is bad. I mean, it has a lot of short and long-term devastating effects on our overall health. And in reality, when we hold on to worry and anger and threats, partly it's because we just don't trust God like we should. Choosing to be unoffendable means trusting God, that He's got it under control, that I don't need to be the kingdom monitor. Because let's face it, we're fickle, man. Our love, our anger, it's fickle. The good news, the great news is that the love of God is not fickle, and it does not come and go like the shifting tides, but it's constant, it's ever present, and it's never ending. Thankfully, the love of God is not dependent on my attentiveness to it, actually being in the moment. How many of you, well, the other night I was watching the Dodger game, right? And Shohei was up. And there are all these people, man, they're there. Hey, they're there. They're at the game. They're lucky. They get to see the man, the myth, the unicorn. They'll never be a player like him in person. But what are they doing? Who's got their phone? They're looking at it through this tiny little viewfinder in their phone, and the man's right there. I've seen people on field level, 40 feet away, looking at it through their phone, man. Because after all, if you don't record it, what? It didn't happen, right? I mean, it's crazy. How many of you are constantly, though, like in the moment? I know I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm really not. I wish I was in the moment. And our attentiveness to God, His love for us is not dependent on us always going, I know He's there, I know He's there, because sometimes we forget. Actually, who liked that movie Up? I love that movie Up. You remember Doug the dog? We're sort of like him, like an airhead. Can't focus on more than one thing at once, or more than a nanosecond. We may be in church this morning, right? Here's how I roll. Let's say we're singing Amazing Grace. Ready? Amazing Grace, how sweet. What time's the race on today? The sound that... Did Yoshi really pitch a complete game? Yeah, he did. I was lost. What the heck did I do with my keys? But now I'm found. Should I go to Costco today? Was blind, but now, oops, I just sat on my glasses. Right? That's how we do it. That's how we roll. You get the point? We're always looking for squirrels, but God's love is constant. Thank God, no matter what. An immovable boulder. We're loved and protected even when we're in our high response, DEFCON 1, high alert states. And this is beyond great news. This is beyond good news. This is the greatest news ever. And it should allow us to move out of anger and more into understanding. We can be assured of God's deep love for us, even as we act like Doug the dog all over the place. Don't even know God's even around, right? But there is even a more upsetting reality. I believe that it's not just that we're not being attentive to God's love for us, but perhaps we don't really believe it deep down. Why do I say this? Well, our behaviors give us away. I believe Martin Luther was probably one of the first people to have that form of OCD called scrupulosity, which I have, where I think Martin Luther knew that God loved him, but he didn't think that he liked him. He didn't think he was doing a good job. When he was sitting there drinking a beer, Martin Luther in his room, why are you not out feeding I have that same thing, scrupulosity, where I feel like God's like sometimes disappointed in me, right? Or I'll be putting the robe on Sunday morning and the Donald Duck devil, Donald Duck angel, remember from the old cartoon, Donald Duck devil's going, I know you, dude. I know what you've done. How dare you put on the robe and lead this church? I have to listen to this guy over here. Our behaviors, though, do give us away. Why? Why do I say that? That we feel sometimes like God doesn't love us. Why do I say that? Well, because we are constantly, it seems like, striving and straining and pushing and pulling and working and worrying, trying to impress God, trying to get that elusive gold star from a God who loves us more than we can imagine and always will, and nothing we can ever do will upset him. But we still try to earn that gold star, that pat on the back from God. No wonder we're angry so much of the time. we're displeased with others because we think God is displeased with us. Not always, I get that. We believe God still requires those 600 plus oral laws, plus the 10 Commandments, and that he's also putting on a few more just for giggles. And he's super upset with us because we just don't seem to get it. But that's just not true. I'd like to close with this. It's well documented. We know what a ragtag bunch of group that Jesus had with him for disciples, right? I mean, come on, man. He could have chosen some professionals, but he's got fishermen and just, ragtag group, no doubt. But they were his closest companions in his 3-year ministry. At the end, one of his buddies, may not have been his favorite, he's my favorite because I relate to him a lot, Peter, he flat out denied that he even knew the man. I don't even know him. He actually swore a curse on it. I don't know him. Not once, 3 times. In fact, all his buddies abandoned him, if you think about it. And one of them betrayed him. But knowing that, they done him wrong like that, here's a quick, you get to do a multiple choice quiz this morning. How Jesus responded to these slights, right? He could have been angry, upset, ticked off, given them the silent treatment. Here's how he responded. You tell me which one he did, A, B, or C. A, he pronounced a harsh judgment on them. I can't keep a straight face. Showing them the error of their ways and adding 10 more oral laws, just to be sure. B, he gave them a stern talking to, offered forgiveness, but only if they were truly repentant. Yeah. Okay, C, sizzled them up a hearty breakfast. Which one was it? C, right? Remember when they saw him on the shore and he had a charcoal fire, which, by the way, was intentional that they said that, because when Peter denied Jesus in the courtyard, he was sitting around a charcoal fire. And when Jesus welcomed the disciples who were in their boats to the shore, he was cooking fish on a charcoal fire. They made a point to say that. Interesting. Yes, he cooked them breakfast after all that. What would we have done? We would have given them the silent treatment and written them off forever, right? Jesus cooked them breakfast. You know which one it was, the hearty fish breakfast. I don't know how hearty it was. To me, hearty is like a hobo omelet and home fries and biscuits and gravy. But I'm not so sure about a fish breakfast, but we'll say it was hearty. Think about it, though. As they're coming back towards the shore, what do they see? They said he's the Messiah. They see God himself cooking them a meal. So do you suspect you're unlovable? Have you perhaps given up on yourself? God has not. He knows you better than you know yourself. And guess what? He still wants to be your friend. You probably won't sit down and have a breakfast with Jesus this side of heaven. If you do, we should probably talk. But the creator of the universe has a special place in his heart for each and every one of us, and nothing, I repeat, nothing can ever separate us from that. When we sin, God says, what sin? I already forgot. Nothing can separate us. Nothing, no how, nowhere. And you can take that to the bank too. In Jesus' name, amen.